So I'm now going to continue the design of the base plate by adding in the 6 location tabs that we're going to need for each of the legs of the hexapod. And the way I'm going to do that, first of all I need to specify a pivot point for each of those legs, and then create a tab around that. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to pick on the line command, and I can pick that directly from the menu at the top, or I can pick it from the drop down menu. And what you'll notice is as you drop down onto that line, the black cursor will change to a blue cursor and a blue crosshair to indicate that I'm now locked onto that line. If I move across to that point there, the blue triangle indicates I'm also now at the midpoint of that line, which is perfect because that's where I want this line to start. I can now click to anchor that point and then drag the mouse to a point in space, click again. Now I'm still in the line tool, and it will keep creating lines that are attached to this first line if I let it. I actually want to finish this line here. I can either hit enter on the keyboard to do that, or click on this tick that's following me around to actually finish the line at that point. Now I'll need to click escape again because I'm currently in the line tool, so I need to come out of that. So click escape on the keyboard, that's taking me out of the line tool. What I want is this point here to be 15 millimeters above this line, and at the minute I don't know where it is. There is no dimension, so I can go to the sketch menu, click on sketch dimension down at the bottom, which we've already used before, and if I now click on this line and drag away, it will actually tell me what that dimension currently is. So that point's currently 40 millimeters above that line, and it actually needs to be 15. So I'm just going to hit 15, and that's now created that point there. So this line was really just about defining where this particular point is. If I click escape to come out of the dimension tool, I can actually turn that into a construction line. So if I click on that line and then go to the sketch palette here where there's a construction option, that will allow me to actually select that as a construction line. So that's now just defining that point, because what I want to do now is use the circle command to actually draw a circle that's centered on this particular point. So I'm going to go to the sketch menu, pick the circle command, center diameter circle, and it will allow me to lock the center onto that point and drag out. Now I want that pivot point hole to be 5 millimeters in diameter, so I'm going to click on the keyboard and make that 5 millimeters, and what you'll notice is that's a construction line still. Now, I don't want that to be a construction line. If I want to toggle that off, if I click on that circle and toggle that off, that is now a proper sketch line. I'm going to go back to the circle command again, pick another center diameter circle, pick it on the same center point, and this time I'm going to make a circle of 25 millimeters. So I've now got 2 concentric circles. I now want to join these circles back to this point here, so I'm going to go back to the line tool, and I'm just going to create 2 lines just very quickly. Now what I want is those to be vertical, so I'm going to click escape, come to my constraints again, click on horizontal vertical constraint, and that will snap those now to be vertical. What they're not though is they're not currently properly connected to this circle. You can see there these need to be tangential. So to do that I can go to the tangent option, click on that circle, click on that line, and these are now tangent to each other. Do the same on the other side. You can see I've got a tangent constraint here, and these lines are now perfectly joined into these circles. So the other thing I can do at this stage is if I go to this lower part of the sketch menu, there's an item here called trim. I can actually trim out these particular pieces of sketch geometry. So I don't really need those. I'm going to trim those out. So that's now gone. Now I need 6 of these, and what I could do is go around and do what I've just done six times, or 5 more times in this case. But there's a simple tool under the sketch menu called circular pattern that will get me there much faster. Circular pattern, when I click on that, allows me to basically click on the objects that I want to pattern. So if I click on each of these lines that I want to pattern, so it's the outline of that and that center circle. It then wants to know which center point do I want to pattern this around, and if I click on the origin point, you'll see it automatically generates 3 repeats of that set of sketch entities that I've just highlighted. Now it always does this by default 3 times, but you can see that it's highlighted in a box, and you've got the ability now to change that to 6. And when I do that and click OK, I've now got 6 instances of that same sketch. So that's pretty much the sketching side of things over with now, and the last thing I need to do now is hit stop sketch, and that will bring me out of the 2D sketching environment back into the 3D environment. And at this point, to turn this now from a 2D sketch into a 3D object, I need to go to the Create menu, pick on the Extrude tool, select each of the profiles that I want to extrude. So I'm looking for these beige areas on the screen, and what I can do is just keep clicking these and add into the selection. So these are all chaining into the selection. So you can see I've got 7 profiles selected in this case, the center one and these 6 outside ones. And now I've got an arrow that I can actually start dragging and making this a certain height. So this is extruding this sketch by a certain height. Now you've got a couple of options here. You can actually type that in this box that's following this arrow around. You can just do it dynamically using the arrow, or you can type it in the dialog box that opens up here. So you've got 3 options. I actually want that to be 5mm thick, so if I click on 5mm and then click OK, I've created my first component. And what you'll notice down in the timeline down at the bottom here, I've got the 2 things that created that component, a sketch and an extrude command. So we've now created our first component, which is the base plate and the starting point for our hexapod design.